When I first came to Mumbai, I didn't have much, just a suitcase, a few shirts, and this madness inside me that believed I could do something, be someone. There were no Google Maps to navigate the city, no social media followers to validate me, and no plan B in case this dream didn't work out. And yet, I wasn't scared. I was clear. Clarity, I've realized, is not about having all the answers. It's about knowing what questions matter. Everyone around me was running, from auditions to studios to meetings. Some people had portfolios thicker than Bollywood scripts. Some had designer jackets, contacts, family names. Me, I had none of that. But I had something they didn't. I had clarity about why I was here. I wasn't chasing fame, I was chasing the craft. I wasn't desperate to be seen. I was determined to be understood. And that makes a difference. You see, clarity is quiet, chaos is loud. Chaos will tell you to do everything at once, get a role, go viral, trend on Twitter, post 5 stories a day, win awards, and also be humble while doing it. But clarity will whisper in your ear, just do one thing well, do it with love. The rest will follow. I remember during the Dilwal Dulhania Le Jayenge, I was not the obvious choice for a romantic hero. I was the skinny guy with unkempt hair and a background in negative roles. People said, he doesn't look like a lover. But I knew what I could bring to Raj wasn't a six-pack or a chocolate boy face. It was honesty. I was clear about who I was and what I wasn't trying to be. Clarity helps you say no. And trust me, saying no is powerful. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you say no to what doesn't fit your story, you make space for the scenes that truly matter. I've turned down films that went on to become big hits. Do I regret it? Not really, because every no came from a place of clarity. I wasn't trying to be in every frame. I wanted to be in the right one. In today's world, chaos has become the default. We're surrounded by too many opinions, too many comparisons, and way too much pressure to prove ourselves all the time. We wake up and before we even brush our teeth, we're checking likes, messages, notifications, as if the world will fall apart if we don't react instantly. But clarity tells you to pause, to breathe, to trust the process. It tells you that slow is not weak, that being selective is not lazy, that being focused is not boring. Some of the best scenes in my life happened when I stopped overthinking. When I stopped trying to control every outcome, when I just trusted the path, even if it wasn't fully visible yet. And I know it's hard. I've been there. There were days when things didn't go as planned. Flops, criticism, self-doubt. But every time I felt like I was drowning in noise, I reminded myself, Shah Rukh, go back to the beginning. Why did you start? What matters? Clarity doesn't mean you'll never be confused. It means even in the confusion, there's a thread that keeps you grounded. For me, that thread has always been storytelling. Whether I'm playing a villain, a lover, or a coach, my job is to tell stories that make people feel something. That's it. That's my North Star. So if you're out there feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you have to do it all, be it all and prove it all, just stop for a second. Ask yourself, what do you want? Not what your friends want, not what your parents expect, not what society celebrates. What makes your heart beat faster in a good way? Hold on to that. Let that be your compass. Because when you are clear, you don't need to be the loudest in the room. Your work speaks, your presence speaks, your peace speaks. And in a world full of noise, that kind of clarity, that's magnetic. There was a time, not long ago, when silence was considered awkward, something to fill, something to avoid. We were taught to speak up, show up, and prove ourselves at every turn. But the more years I've lived, the more movies I've made, and the more life has whispered its lessons to me, I've realized something deeply powerful. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. You see, when I was younger and just starting out, I felt like I had to say everything. explain myself, defend myself, respond to every rumor, every headline, every whisper behind my back. And believe me, in this industry, there are plenty of those. People love to talk. They build entire stories from a single pause. But eventually, I learned the art of holding back, not because I had nothing to say, but because not everything needs to be said. There's a scene in almost every good film where the actor doesn't speak, but just looks. No dialogue, just the eyes, the breath, the silence. And you, the audience, feel everything. You understand everything. Why? Because silence carries a weight that words sometimes can't. In real life, it's no different. When someone insults you or doubts you or underestimates your worth, the natural instinct is to fight back, to prove a point, to win the argument. But real power, I've found, lies in restraint, in not reacting, in letting your success, your work, your truth speak louder than any retort ever could. Silence is not emptiness. It's energy being focused inward. It's choosing where to spend your voice. There was a phase when I was going through some professional setbacks. Films weren't working. Critics had sharp things to say. Some called me outdated, said I was finished. I remember scrolling through those comments, interviews, and opinions, and thinking, should I say something? Should I explain? Should I try to justify where I am? But instead, I chose silence. Not because I agreed, but because I knew this wasn't my final act. I didn't need to announce a comeback. I needed to build one. And when I did, Pathan Javan, I didn't need to say a word. The work spoke for itself. That's the thing. When you're doing the work in silence, you don't have to scream for attention. People notice. They always do. You just have to be patient enough to let the silence do its job. In today's world, we confuse visibility with value. Just because someone is talking all the time doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. And just because someone is quiet doesn't mean they're not powerful. Often, the quietest person in the room is the one watching the most, learning the most, and preparing to surprise the world. I've seen it time and again in life and on set. Some of the greatest performances come from stillness, a subtle glance, a half smile, a long pause. And it's not because the actor forgot their lines. It's because they understood the moment didn't need words. Sometimes the loudest applause is the one you hear in your heart. When you do something you're proud of, when you overcome something silently that no one else even knew you were going through. That's strength. And that's real victory. I'm not saying never speak. I'm saying choose when to speak. Choose when your words will carry meaning. Don't waste them trying to be louder than the noise around you. Instead, become so grounded, so calm, so focused that the noise can't even touch you. And let's be honest, some people won't get it. They'll mistake your silence for arrogance, for weakness, for indifference. That's okay. Let them. Because when the time is right, your work, your presence, your light, it'll speak louder than any argument ever could. So if you're someone who feels left out because you're not always the center of the conversation, or if you feel pressured to constantly explain yourself to the world, stop, breathe, trust your silence, let it become your superpower. Because sometimes the most powerful line in the script is the one that's never said. And trust me, I've delivered quite a few of those. There's something magical about doing less, but doing it with your whole heart. Something rare, something real. In a world that's obsessed with numbers, how many movies you've done, how many awards you've won, how many followers you've got, I've come to believe that what truly matters is not how much you do, but how well you do it. Quality over quantity. People often ask me, Shah Rukh, why don't you do more films? You used to do 4 or 5 a year in the 90s, now it's one in a while. And I smiled, because they're not wrong. I did work like a man possessed back then. I was hungry, I was new. And to be honest, I was also trying to prove something to myself, to the industry, to the world. But with time, I realized that true growth doesn't come from doing. It comes from doing things that matter. Let me take you back. Years ago, I was offered a film that had all the ingredients of a blockbuster. Big budget, great cast, high expectations. But when I read the script, something didn't sit right. It didn't speak to me. It felt hollow. And as tempting as it was to sign on, I said no. That decision wasn't easy. The world around me said I was being foolish, that I was wasting an opportunity, but I believed in something deeper. You don't build a legacy by saying yes to everything. You build it by choosing the right things. Every movie I do now, every character I step into, it has to resonate. It has to challenge me. It has to say something about love, about pain, about the human condition. I'd rather do one film in 2 years that moves people, that becomes part of their lives, than 5 films that just fill screens on a Friday and are forgotten by Monday. And this doesn't just apply to films, it applies to life. Think about it. We chase more money, more recognition, more likes, more friends, more achievements. But the real joy, it comes from depth. One true friend who understands your silence is worth more than 1,000 followers who scroll past your soul. One honest conversation is more powerful than hours of small talk. One act of kindness done from the heart is more valuable than a dozen performed just for applause. You don't need to read 100 books to be wise. Sometimes one book, read deeply, can change your life. You don't need to be in 10 different places trying to please everyone. Be fully present in one moment with one person and give them the best of you. That's where the magic lives. And yes, I know it's hard. We live in an age of comparison. We scroll through success stories and start feeling like we're behind, like we need to catch up. But let me tell you something, you are not behind. You are building something that lasts. And things that last are not rushed. I took a break from acting for a few years. Some people called it a slump. Some said I was fading. But in that quiet space, I was rediscovering, realigning. I was choosing not just my next film, but my next message. And when I returned with Pathan and then Jawan, it wasn't just about box office numbers. It was about impact. It was about reminding people I'm still here, not because I never left, but because I came back better. That's what quality does. It lasts, it echoes, it leaves a mark. So to anyone out there feeling pressure to constantly produce, constantly hustle, constantly be on, pause. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing meaningful? Am I proud of it? Will it stand the test of time? Because 5 forgettable efforts will never outweigh one unforgettable one. Remember, it's not the number of scenes you have in the movie of life, it's how you deliver them, how deeply you felt them, and how truthfully they touched others. So don't just aim to be busy, aim to be brilliant. Don't just show up often, show up fully. Because in the end, it's not about how much you did, it's about how beautifully you did it. And that, my friend, is where the real story begins.